number 140 Skew block plane is one of the first planes we ever made, and also one of the most unique. It is a little bit tricky to set up because of the skewed blade and the skewed bedding angle of the tool, of the blade itself. But once you master working with that, the options with this tool are almost limitless. It comes in a right hand and left hand orientation, so if you need to work against the grain in a certain circumstance, you can do that. You can probably get by with one tool, but if you're going to be constantly working in different directions, you may want to have both. There are a lot of setup points to this tool. There are a lot of different options and features. You've got the fence, which is adjustable. You can work from a very narrow point, where you'd be doing a small rabbit, to a very wide, and you can control the depth of that rabbit cut. You can apply secondary fences for squaring up an edge or creating a straight line on something. Or you can even put one on that has a bevel. Now you can create a chamfer, and you can put any angle you want in there. There are two ways to fasten. You can drill holes and use bolts that would fix it solidly. So if you're doing an extended period point of work, you might want to fasten that way. Or you can just use double-sided tape. When you put the piece on, make sure you clamp it in place. That way it's going to hold better. One of these little multi-tip screwdrivers is useful for doing some of the adjustments. A straight-bladed screwdriver lets you remove the fence if you need to. One screw loosens, and you can pull the post right out. So that can set aside, and you can use the tool like you would a regular block plane, but it's got a skewed blade. If you need to go cross-grain, that's going to give you a better cutting action. You can also remove this side plate altogether. If you're going to be using the tool for rabbiting, you want that plate off. Now you've got that corner of the blade exposed, so you can get right up against something like the cheek of a tenon. You can work right into that shoulder line. When you do have that off, if you're going to be creating this line for the shoulder, you can rotate down this nicker. You loosen the screw, and because this is magnetic, you can use that to actually position the nicker. There's one flat side that when it's oriented down towards the sole of the plane, you don't get a cut at all. If you need to create the nicked cut, you rotate it down and tighten in the blade. If you're using the tool as a regular block plane, you put the fence back on. Now, when it comes to sharpening the blade, because of the skew on here, you may find that it's easier to do freehand. It's not going to jig up easily. And Thomas Lie-Nielsen, in his sharpening book, did come up with a method with a block of wood and a dado and some angles to be able to match that angle repeatedly. And if you're interested, you can find that in his sharpening book. For the most part, though, I tend to just do these freehand. The one thing you want to be careful about is that you're maintaining a consistent angle here, because that angle has to match up with the angle in the tool itself when you put it together. For setting up the blade for a cut, you don't want to over-tighten the cap. Put it in place and tighten that down until it just stops moving. And then go about a half a turn on the wheel. This little spin wheel creates tension for the cap. Loosen it about half that amount when you're ready to make an adjustment for depth. Now, I use the same setup method for this plane that I do any other plane. A little block of wood about a ½ inch thick and about 3 or 4 inches long. I want to take a shaving from each side of that blade. If I get an even thickness cut from both sides, then I know it's set parallel. A little tap with a small hammer I'm getting a nice even cut on both sides, and the tool's ready to use. I can use this fence if I want to square up stock. If I want to true up this tenon, I'll put it into a clamp. And I can use the plane with the fence if I need to control how deep that tenon's going to be, or I can use it without. Because the corner is exposed, I'm going to get right into where the shoulder line is, and I can true up that piece and get a good fit in the mortise hole. As soon as that fits, I'm ready to keep going. A place I might want the fence is if I'm going to create the tenon for, say, a breadboard end. I also want to make sure that I've got the nicker down. And now when I run across there, as I take my cut, the nicker slices a clean shoulder line. This is just a few uses for this tool. And as I said before, once you get the handle on setting it up and sharpening it, it's almost limitless what you can do.